Good morning. I'm calling the Municipal Service and Properties Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? Here.
Present.
Present.
Just under the wire, folks. Here.
Okay, Clerk, Councilman Harrison has a Boza hearing. He'll be here shortly. Councilman Harrison. Let me call up first. Let's start off with city planning. All right, ordinance number, excuse me. Ordinance number 1218, 2025. This is by council members Harrison, Bishop, and Griffin. Departmental request. An emergency ordinance determining the method of making public improvement of constructing high comfort pedestrian and bicycle improvements at various locations, authorizing the Director of City Planning Commission, Public Works, and/or capital projects as appropriate to enter into one or more public improvements and professional services contracts needed for the improvement, authorizing the mayor and the commissioner of purchases and supplies to acquire, accept, and record for right-of-way purposes real property and easements, authorizing the director to accept rights of entry from private property owners, authorizing the director to enter into various written standard purchases and requirements contracts needed to effectuate this ordinance, including electric/no emission vehicles and equipment, and to enter into other agreements or execute documents necessary to conduct the program. Okay, Director, that is a lot of words describing what this ordinance is. Can you give us a synopsis of what this ordinance will do and what's the purpose of it? Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Callie Mersman. I'm the Director of City Planning. This piece is a follow-on to Ordinance Number 851, 2025 that came before you this summer. That was authorization to apply and accept a congestion mitigation and air quality grant from NOACA, our Metropolitan Planning Organization. This piece has all of the implementation authority for that grant. And so that grant includes two key components. One is quick build, for the most part, implementation of bicycle and pedestrian connections that follow on our Cleveland Moves 3-year rapid implementation plan for high comfort bikeways and pedestrian connections, as well as a pilot project for electric vehicles in the waste division. So I can answer any follow-up questions to the bicycle and pedestrian element of the grant. Director O'Keefe is here to answer questions as it relates to refuse vehicles.
Okay, I got a couple questions. I'm gonna go to my colleagues. So this piece, it states, says we want to accept $5.4 million grant, right? To apply and accept, and the apply and accept piece listed 11.9 million, that 851. So can you explain what's the difference? Why is such a big difference in the dollar amounts?
Yes, so when we were here this summer, we were here when we had just submitted the grant application. So we asked for a total that was much larger than what we were awarded. There was also an e-bike rebate program that was proposed that the CMAQ Evaluation Committee ultimately elected not to fund. And so this piece here in the updated council summary are revised to reflect our recommended award rather than the total amount that we had applied for.
Okay. All right, first let me back up. This piece is ordinance number 1218, 2025, as amended. And let me read the amendments. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. Number one, in section 6 at the end, insert Director of City Planning Commission shall provide written notice to the clerk of council whenever any purchases is made under this section, which notice shall include details of such cooperative purchases, Number 2, in section 12, line 1, after shall, insert not to exceed 6.815532 million, and shall. Number 3, insert a new section 13 to read as follows. Section 13, that a copy of an executive summary has been placed in file number 1218-2025-A. And number 4, renumbering existing 13 and 14 to new section 14 and section 15. Okay. All right. Okay, so Director, also, let me see if I got another question here. I'm gonna go to Councilman Starr first.
My question through the chair to the director regarding this actual acceptance of this grant and some of the plans that you have regarding this. Have you met with each council member where this would take place at in their ward to get their understanding and their support for this initiative? Through the chair.
To the council member through the chair, we did meet with council members as we were creating the Cleveland Moves plan over the last year. We also have reached out to every council member that has a project in this, offering to meet with them. We have not met with everyone yet, but these elements are reflected in the overall Cleveland Moves plan. I'll also mention that these dollars are available starting in state fiscal year 2030, and so there is quite a lot of process between identifying the construction funding and moving forward with the project, so there will be additional engagement. We'll have to go through detailed design of what the connections look like, and council members and residents will be part of those conversations. This is just identifying the money to move forward.
Okay, through the chair, that means you're just basically identifying and asking for additional support to accept the difference of dollar amount than from the initial ask that you would gain from council at the last committee. I think, what is it, last year? Was that ordinance number 8 or something?
815.
Well, 815.
To the councilman through the chair, the CMAQ program, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, is a federally funded grant program available through NOACA. So we know that we don't have enough local funds to do everything that we dream of doing on our streets. We really try and leverage the local money that we do have as much as possible through external grants. So this piece and the piece that came in the summer are authorizing us to pursue these federal funds that will make 80% of the total project cost with a 20% local match. This ordinance allows us to accept, well, the summer ordinance allowed us to apply for and accept the funding. This gives us the authority to enter into contracts and actually utilize the grant funding for the projects listed.
Thank you. And through the chair, when you say the local match, where is the local match coming from?
It will come from future bond sales in the year of the project.
Future fund sales? Can you elaborate on that?
Road and bridge bond sales.
So we're going to bond out and use that dollars to be able to complete. Do you have a total cost or estimate of what this actually will look like for this entire project to be able to fulfill the wards that are listed on the map?
Yes. So again, with that 80% federal, 20% local split for the Cleveland Moves portion specifically, the pedestrian and bicycle improvements, the recommended grant award, which is the federal portion, is $3.45 million. The 20% local match required for that is $865,532. Then there's the second piece, that is the electric waste vehicle pilot program. That CMAQ grant award amount is $2 million with a local match of $500,000.
So in total, our local match is $1.3 million on this initiative. And when through the chair, we will use bond sales from the future to be able to provide the $1.3 million, which brings this total overall up to $6.8 million through the chair.
To the councilman through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, I just definitely, so if this ordinance is passed today, I definitely will make sure that you reach out to council members to make sure they're in agreements with some of the goals that you are trying to achieve within this ordinance, just to make sure you have the support of council members in their ward for some of these upgrades. Thank you, Chair, and I yield.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Director, now who picked the locations of these street improvements? Who came up with the locations for this?
They're based on the recommendations in the Cleveland Moves plan that was adopted in April. So as you may recall, that's a citywide plan that looks at high-stress crossings and pedestrian needs, as well as citywide bicycle connections. CMAQ as a grant program really looks at regional connectivity and is focused on projects that can reduce emissions. And so in the Cleveland Moves plan, many of these are key connectors across neighborhoods or key gap fillers between where we already have trails, but there's just a little bit of a gap connecting folks through. A couple of them are where there are schools but no sidewalks, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I noticed that the vast majority of these locations are on the west side. It's a few downtown, but very few are on the east side. So I was just wondering that we don't have as many trails connected on the east side. Is that the reasoning for this?
To the councilman through the chair, there are differences in distance as well, but several key east side connections include East 55th Street. We're working on the entirety of that corridor through the Safety Action Plan. Community College Avenue and Quincy are a big connector, as well as St. Clair on the east side. So we are striving for representation across the city, but really looking at where there are key connectivity and safety concerns, which are on both the east and west sides.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, nobody reached out to me about the project that was in my ward. The only conversation that I've had with anybody was when I was meeting last week regarding a different topic, and we just happened to bring this up because I just saw this when it was introduced in the legislation. So can you tell me what you have planned for Berea Road between Triscuit and at least 117th? Or it says Detroit here, but I only represent the 117th.
Sure. To the councilman through the chair, I believe you also received an email from us to tee up this conversation. Berea is identified in Cleveland Moves as a key connector from the neighborhoods you represent up to Detroit and the West Boulevard connection to the lakefront. At this point, the projects have not been designed, but these are all for the most part, like on Berea, we would be looking at a quick build construction that would put protected bike lanes in some configuration to make that connection between neighborhoods. The configuration hasn't been determined yet. That comes in the design phase, which will also include traffic counts and analysis to understand the best way to make the connection for that corridor. There's also some potential that as we get into design, we start looking at somewhat alternate routing to connect from point A to point B if we find that the specific routing recommended here is not viable.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, were these 15 streets included in the grant?
To the councilman through the chair, yes, CMAQ has very specific calculations around emission reductions and those regional connections that I mentioned. So the locations that we're connecting are included in the grant.
All right, so what happens if we'll just say, I'm just going to take the first one, East 55th Street from Opportunity Corridor to Broadway Avenue, if that's not supported from the local council person and that street goes away, like that won't be done. What happens with the grant money then? Do we give that back for whatever portion was left out of for that street?
The way the legislation is written with these specific locations in it, I think there would be a two-step conversation process if we were in that reality. The first is that we would talk with NOACA, our grant administering agency, to see if we could possibly use that share of the award for an alternate location that would maybe meet the same sort of emissions reductions that they were looking for. If they were amenable to that, then we would come back before council to try and add an additional location. They may say no, and in that case, we would just forfeit the funds.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the director, when is this project supposed to happen?
These funds are available in state fiscal year 2030, starting state fiscal year 2030, so that's July of 2029. There are cases when the project is ready. We can work with NOACA to find dollars in advance of that, and so we are trying to get the projects ready as soon as possible. We know that costs are growing, et cetera, so, and all of these are based on community conversation and key gaps that we would like to fill as soon as possible.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, seeing how this isn't until a 2029 project, I'd recommend before passage of this, that every council member knows exactly what the design is for their streets, before we go ahead and pass something that will be a tussle later on, because this is a lot of streets, this is a lot of change, and I know for the portion that I represent, I would definitely want to see how it would be constructed, how it would be designed prior to me passing any, so this won't be without objection. But I would definitely want to see what it's going to look like and how it's going to play out prior to passing it. Seeing how we've already accepted the funds, and this isn't a project that's going to happen until January 2029, maybe sooner. However, this is 4 years out, and I believe that every council member should know exactly what this is going to look like prior to giving the administration authority to just start changing streets and neighborhoods. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, thank you, Councilman Casey.
Chairman, can I get on the list, please? Can I get on the list, please?
Councilwoman Marr.
Thank you. I just want to be clear that I understand or reflect on Councilman Casey's point. I want to be very clear that Sarah Davis from City Planning reached out to my office. There is a Ward 12 project here. She was very clear, offered to meet. I would wonder if you also had an invitation from Ms. Davis to have a conversation about the project in your ward. I want to make sure I understand if we hold this, I don't want to lose the chance for a very badly needed improvement on Jennings and in Ward 12 because we couldn't take meetings that were being offered. So I'd like to make sure I understand the implications if we table this legislation at this stage.
Okay,
For it to be held.
Just a minute. Everything goes through the chair, okay? So Councilwoman Marr, you're saying that you want this piece to move forward. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think I would like to make sure that if we're holding it, that there's a clear timeline for passage, and I'd like to understand the implications of what happens if we don't pass it today in terms of locking in the dollars and ensuring that these projects are on a path to happening. I don't want to hold something that then has a negative implication for some badly needed projects. I'd just like to understand what is being proposed through the chair.
Okay, all right. Director, is this piece time sensitive, Director?
To the councilman through the chair, because we have authority to apply and accept already, there is no immediate urgency for this piece.
Okay. So Councilman Starr has not been briefed on this, and Councilman Casey has not been briefed on this. And I'm not exactly sure how many other council members have not been briefed on it. I hear Councilwoman Marr has been briefed. But can we ask that your department brief the council members before we pass this today?
Yes, to the councilman. I have two questions, I guess,
Sure.
and one clarification to Councilmember Casey. So if council members are not comfortable passing this until we know the specific design, that will be maybe a year to 18 months into the future. So then that just helps me know when to come back versus a briefing conversation about the connection and what that could look like, which we could have right now in sort of a philosophical or theoretical sense. I also want to know that I am talking mostly about the bicycle and pedestrian elements that are the roadway changes. There's also this separate element that is the pilot project of the EVs in waste, and would want Director O'Keefe to speak to the potential for delaying that piece, or if council wanted to move that portion of the grants forward, if the concerns are around the roadway changes, we could work to do that as well.
Okay, all right. All right, well, I don't have any problems moving it forward. If you can contact Councilman Casey and Councilman Starr and brief them before finance, okay? If not, we'll just hold it at finance, okay? Councilman Starr.
And also through there, you also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 8 other wards too, Chair.
Okay.
That is going to be where these maps are affecting some of the changes in their neighborhoods from the point that Councilmember Casey brought in. Just making sure, like, if there's something that's going to be later on down the road within the future of council, making sure those council members or making sure members know exactly what's going on. What I heard through the chair from the director is the director saying, you know, this is not something that's going to be needed tomorrow. She mentioned something around an 18-month timeline. So therefore, I don't know if we wanted to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's, that each member is comfortable with it. Rather they can say they met, they had a discussion, or they said, hey, I don't need to discuss. Just making sure members know it's got exactly going on, because what happens is construction start, things start happening, the next you know it, members get calls and start discussing this. And then also from the standpoint of these decisions, have we had any community input as far as this project? I know you mentioned bike lanes and some different upgrades. Have we talked to the community about what this is actually going to look like in their neighborhood from the vision, or gave any updates? Because sometimes some of these plans were implemented early years ago, and then next you know, we come up with it years later, and then residents still are not briefed on any changes or updates. So through the chair, have we brought these plans or talked about Vision Zero within a recent year or two with residents where they identified these locations of upgrades for this application through the chair?
To the councilman through the chair, we did community engagement around the Cleveland Moves plan over about the last 18 months. We adopted that just in April. And for some of these segments, there has been additional engagement specifically around them, like on East 55th Street. We have an additional, more specific East 55th Safety Action Plan. As we think about a citywide plan, you know, a concept recommendation that we're trying to advance, finding the money to be able to do the things is a really important step. We're trying not to talk with community members about things that we can't do, because that leads to expectations that we can't follow through on. And so there's sort of a balance in having the overall vision out there and the concept that we're trying to connect, then going after resources, trying to pull as much into the city as possible, and then having those more detailed discussions about, as we're going through design, we have this budget for the project. These are the goals that we're trying to achieve based on our past plans, and we can talk about the specifics in a more applied fashion with residents and council members. And so that's sort of why we have the big picture citywide plan. We identify priorities, find funding for those, and then get into the details of the individual segments.
And that's fine, and I understand, because what I don't want to see is we pass something, and then next you know, we get all this social media and all this media attention regarding some upgrades that's supposed to come to happen, but then it's not going to happen for 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years, but to the media, they believe it's going to happen. Similar to the one-way access that we're dealing with Huron and Prospect right now currently. I've received calls about that. Some are in support, some are not. Some saying, hey, we don't even got the funding yet, but we put out this design that looks great, but we don't really have the pathway to be able to achieve that. So now we're just stuck with some changes that people said is going to come, but it's not something that's going to happen today or tomorrow or much later than anything. So is this something similar to that? We pass it today, next you know, now we got these future designs that's floating around, and residents talking about, hey, safety, but then they don't see no action because we got to wait to 2030. That's where I'm trying to make sure we are in line of what we're doing, and if it's going to happen now or later, we'd much rather have the community know, because we have some different developments that's happening in the downtown part of the ward that I represent, and therefore, from that standpoint, they see something and somebody may be developing something right there in their neighborhood, and they see their future plans, then they told, well, you can't do your part yet because we don't got the money to do other parts of the design. So how fair is that to someone who's ready and possibly doing construction, and then the other ones who can't do it because the city don't have their money yet? I mean, just want to make sure that I'm clear on exactly what we're actually doing, if this is something that we're planning to do in 2030. But if we're saying we already gave you authorizations in the 851 to go after the grant, then you receive that money. What is this actually here? What are we actually doing right now with this? To the chair.
To the councilman through the chair, you touched on a couple of topics there. I'll try and catch all of them and
Yes.
then let me know. To the question about the timing and the project development process, for roadway projects like this. And again, most of these are quick builds. Some of them are a little bit more intensive with concrete and things like that. But for quick build, we start with our citywide vision. Then we need to go into a design phase. Some of these here are streets that have existing bike lanes already, and so we're just enhancing them with separation, maybe moving the parking from the curb to the outside of the bike lane, so there's a little bit of design work there. Community College is a good example of that, where there's existing bike lanes, we would just reconfigure the street to make those more comfortable. Other streets on here, like Berea, don't have bike lanes at all, but are a key connection, and so that would be a little bit more of a detailed design process to understand what the best new configuration of the street is. We do have funding for that design through a grant that council authorized previously, so we will be ready to put an RFP out, get a design consultant in place to start showing progress and having those conversations with more project specifics in the very near future. This money here is for construction, and so that follows on after the design piece. It's important to know the budget that you have to work with when you're designing, right? So we can design something that fits within the budget that we have. These dollars in the grant cycle that we are in, they're always 2 years in advance. So we always have to be thinking a little bit in advance and really be foresightful about what we might want down the road. So the starting point for these dollars is that they become available in July of 2029 through ODOT. However, if we can show that we're ready, we can go to NOACA and ODOT early and ask for our dollars early. So what our goal really would be is we're trying to line up all these pieces so that we can execute in a fashion that meets the expectations of what we're talking about with community, and that we can get the changes ideally out on the street as soon as possible once we go through that process, so that folks aren't waiting between design and construction for a couple of years. And so that's what we're trying to do here today. This legislation specifically authorizes us to enter into those contracts and actually perform the construction. So it's all of the legislative authority that we need to be able to use the dollars and get the improvements out on the ground. The previous ordinance earlier this summer was authority to apply for the grant and then sign the grant agreement to accept the funds. So this is the third piece that we need to be able to actually implement the grant that we've applied for and received.
Okay, and that makes a little bit more sense and understanding. So I know you mentioned a lot about bike lines. I wanted to ask, can you provide the pros and cons of bike lanes? Because I keep hearing bike lanes a lot of times, and I have different groups and with different opinions in Ward 5 regarding bike lanes. Some residents are very heavily in support of, and then some residents are not so much in support of. And I just want to understand what is the approach of the city with these bike lanes to make sure we get to a happy medium, which makes sense because safety is always a top priority. But sometimes you put bike lanes in certain areas in neighborhoods where they don't got bollards. But then you got other areas where you do got bollards. So creating a lot of bike lines can be confusing, can be driving. You know, a prime example I take for example, converted Quincy from 55th and Quincy up to East 79th was converted into one lane back and forth, or 2 lanes. And therefore it cut off, and now you got this bike lane, and if you don't know, you will not understand that it's a bike lane now. But then you go somewhere else in the neighborhoods, you'll see a bike lane with all these bollards that just shows, hey, you can't obviously go through that with your car. You know, so as we're increasing these bike lanes, what is the standard that we're trying to set? Or are we just doing it case by case, project by project? Do we have some parameters of saying, hey, this is where we go for bike lanes to ensure that those individuals that's riding on their bikes are safe, but also the ones who are driving their cars through the chair?
To the councilman through the chair, that's a great question. So when we think about bike lanes, there are kind of 2 key priorities that we're trying to achieve with these. The first, as you're talking about, is comfort and connection for folks who are actually riding bikes, who are out on there trying to get through the city on designated pathways. The second priority is overall street safety. So there's a lot of research that shows, and especially in a city like Cleveland, where we know through our Vision Zero work that some of our most dangerous streets are the widest, biggest ones that tend to be much more empty of cars than they were originally built for. Bike lanes can actually reduce the extra space and the width of those streets that encourages and sends mental and visual signals to drivers to drive more slowly, pay more attention, and actually makes those streets safer for anyone using them, whether you're in a car, riding a bike, walking on the sidewalk, et cetera. And so on some of our key arteries, like East 55th Street, like St. Clair, where we have seen big safety needs and there's a lot of extra capacity, bike lanes both provide that connection for people riding bicycles as well as creating an overall safer street design for everyone. Now, you asked about the difference in how bike lanes look in different parts of the city. One of the key things in Cleveland Moves that we're shifting toward right now, so we're in the middle of this transition, is moving from conventional bike lanes, which are just stripes on the street, painting, to separated bike lanes with vertical protection or some sort of physical separation between the vehicular travel lane and the bike lane. That helps make bicyclists more comfortable and it's more intuitive where they should go, and it also helps drivers to understand which part of the street is in their space. When we talk about quick build and many of the projects that are in this specific grant, it's actually to upgrade our existing painted bike lanes like on Quincy to something that does have that vertical separation, maybe clearer markings, so that that is a high comfort bike lane rather than just some markings on the ground that folks who are very maybe a little bit more in tune with infrastructure markings can follow. So we're working on rolling out the bollards across the city. This grant is an important way to help us continue to make those improvements.
Yep, and I'll wrap up, Chair. Thank you, Director, for that in-depth conversation and answers. But that's something that goes into planning. When we start to talk about doing things and we actually do it, it's important for us to talk those things through a community. I know you said you have had some community input. Is there a way that we can request to our staff to get actual sign-in sheets of which communities, who was at meetings, to be able to understand what the community thoughts and what's the questions and the notes that was taken for these meetings as it goes to this? And then also, not to belabor on something, but some of the things that we got downtown with the Huron Road and Prospect Ave made me think about the businesses. When we create these infrastructures and create these different changes, what type of direct impact does this happen on those businesses that operates? Prime example, right now, if you're trying to have a truck to unload equipment or supplies to a business right now on Prospect, the whole street is blocked off. Like, you have a whole bottleneck and the street is blocked off because of the designs and the upgrades that we've made through the city made, without being able to understand the importance of unloading things early in the morning, unloading things during the day. So have you looked at these areas where we have businesses that operate and they use the street to be able to unload their supplies to their business? Do we have any data on that within these areas that we're trying to make these changes through the chair?
To the councilman through the chair, for these specific connections, those are all things that will factor into the design process, which is our next phase that we'll be moving into. To touch briefly on Huron and Prospect, there has been quite a lot of sort of door-to-door business engagement, signs posted on the corridor, et cetera, around the new design. I know that the bikeway is on one side of the street, but there's still on-street parking and other things on the other side of the street. We're also investigating different ways of managing curbs for dynamic loading zones. So all of these things are things that we're trying to factor in and can be responsive and are being responsive to businesses as they highlight these needs to help problem solve their individual challenges.
And thank you, but to some point in the back of my mind, I don't know if I'm in support of just moving in this direction. I am in support of the upgrades and the safety measures to make sure we have good areas for bike lanes, but also making sure we have support to be able to assist with individuals who have a business to be able to offload the things. Like I said, I traveled through, see downtown and I see trucks unloaded, then next you know when a car coming through, there's not no give. There's an accident waiting to happen. So I don't know if the best approach is saying, hey, we passed this ordinance, give you the dollars that obviously you need or to accept the grant that you are receiving and then come back with the actual plans. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, I'd rather you say, hey, this is the actual plans, this is the layout, this is who we spoke to, this is where we got a yes from, this is where we got a no from, this would make sense, this is how it's gonna look on this, you know, there's so many things that I think we just gotta be thoughtful and mindful, because like I said, it's just one day I looked up and I seen bike lanes changing on the street. And then I'm like, if I didn't know it, I know for a fact that a lot of residents that travel in that area, as well as businesses, have not been directly contacted. And then next you know, you look up, my office receiving calls about what does this look like? How does this change happen? Why, who did this stupid thing? It's in some languages that our residents may say. And I just want to make sure we got resident input, as well as all of our dotting our I's and crossing our T's, communicating what changes we are happening and how it is. And I yield, Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. All right, is there any other questions on ordinance number 1218, 2025? All right, Director, what I will do is I'm going to temporarily hold this piece, and please contact the members that's listed, the ward members. They have the wards that these streets are affected. Please, could you contact the members and give them a briefing on this whole piece of legislation and what it might mean to them, and then I will relieve this to finance, okay?
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to, next I'm going to go to ordinance number 1307, 2025. This is by Council Member Spencer. An emergency ordinance changing the name of Herman Park located at Herman Avenue and West 59th Street to Judge Raymond L. Pianca Park upon completion of Herman Park renovations and site improvements, okay? Councilwoman, do you want to give us your thoughts on ordinance number 1307? Director, you want to come to the table? You can come to the table.
Director Nichols stepped out. Do you need somebody at the table?
Yeah, okay, she's supposed to represent this piece?
I'm not sure. It's a council piece, but we're
Okay, all right. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Spencer.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. It's an honor to be at the committee table with the MS&P committee this morning. I'm not always here on Monday mornings, but this is a big day. So, but thank you so much for having me and for hearing this piece. This has been a long-held dream for the community, which was to find a significant way to honor the legacy of Judge Raymond L. Pianca. I think almost all members are very, very familiar with Judge Pianca and his legacy. He was most recently, prior to his passing, nationally renowned as the founding judge for our Cleveland Housing Court, among his many, many other acts of public service. And his encyclopedic knowledge of the community, including all the streets surrounding Herman Park. So this is a bit of an unusual piece in that I am putting it forward for members' consideration now. However, the actual renaming would not go into effect until such time that park improvements are completed. So the park is due for capital improvements. It is not scheduled yet for capital improvements. There's actually a public-private partnership underway to amass funding for the park. However, a date for those improvements has not been set. So this is just sort of a marker and a bit of a line in the sand to say that when we get to that point and the park is reimagined and upgraded, at that point, the formal naming will go into effect. So that's
Okay.
the purpose of this piece.
Okay, all right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 1307, 2025? Members? All right, seeing no questions on ordinance number 1307, 2025 is approved. Please sign it.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, and so I'm going to go to resolution number 1097, 2025. This is by Council Members Spencer, Bishop, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. Emergency resolution requesting the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio determine and declare a reasonable and safe prima facie speed limit of 30 miles per hour for Lake Avenue between West 117th and Detroit Avenue. Okay, I'll speak to this, Director.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilman. First to my right is Cameron Roberts. He's a relatively new hire in the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects, and his focus is on Vision Zero. And he can refresh Council's memory on the goals of Vision Zero. And then I'll set the table for this ordinance and then hand it over to Mr. Roberts to discuss. But essentially, this is the entire stretch of Lake Avenue that goes from West 117th Street at the Lakewood border to Detroit Avenue. And so the request that we've been working on with ODOT is to reduce the speed from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Roberts to discuss.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, Chair and Council Committee members. So as was stated, this is a resolution requesting that the Ohio Department of Transportation reduce the speed limit of Lake Avenue from 35 miles per hour to 30. And this is an initiative that began last year following the City of Lakewood's success in reducing their section of Lake Avenue from 35 to 30 miles per hour. This is also an initiative that directly aligns with the city's Vision Zero goals to reduce traffic deaths and serious injuries on Cleveland roads. We know that there is a direct correlation between the speed at which a vehicle is traveling and the risk of injury, and even reducing car speed limits by 5 miles per hour can go a very long way and potentially saving a life when a crash does occur. So as part of this process, ODOT has to approve a request for a speed limit reduction. And to do that, the city had to complete a speed zone study, which involved collecting speed data and traffic counts along the corridor. That was done over a week-long period, and the results of that study found that the majority of drivers on Lake Avenue in the city of Cleveland are already driving below the posted speed limit of 35. So those results were in our favor for this request. Along with that, we also looked at crash data and also the context of the road. So Lake Avenue has changed pretty significantly over the past 10 to 15 years with reductions in the number of drive lanes, narrowing the drive lanes, adding bike lanes to some portions of the road, as well as concrete median islands, all things that have likely contributed to traffic calming, slower driving speeds, and the presence of more multimodal usership of the road as well. So all of those factors combined, we submitted those results to ODOT, and they have voiced support for this request, acknowledging that 30 miles per hour would be a safe and reasonable speed limit for Lake Avenue, and passage of this council resolution is sort of the final step in getting the written approval to move forward with implementation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Councilman Spencer, do you want to make a comment?
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I do. And first of all, through you, Chair, it's nice to finally meet you, Cameron. I've heard a lot about you. We've corresponded, hadn't met in person yet. So thank you for stewarding this effort. I really appreciate it. Great to meet you. No, this is, I do have one question through you, Chair, for Mr. Roberts, which is, first of all, obviously, I fully support this piece, and this has been years in the making, and it's gone through extensive process. So I'm thrilled to see this piece come up today for passage and ask for my colleagues' support. My question through you, Chair, to Mr. Roberts would be, presuming this passes out of committee today, passes out of Finance Committee, and passes out of full council, how quickly do we believe the notification can go up so the public has advance notice of the change and then the speed limit change itself?
To the council member through the chair, so our plan right now is as soon as we get that written approval from ODOT to move forward, we are planning to set up signage along the corridor informing community members about this upcoming change. We would like to have those signs out for at least a couple weeks to give people advance notice before we implement the speed limit reduction. But we can do the implementation fully in-house, so it would be the Division of Traffic Engineering going out there to replace the speed limit signs from the 35 to 30. So I would say, after we get that final written approval from ODOT, we're maybe looking at a 3 to 4 week period to do that advance notice and implement the signage change.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. And again, I fully support this piece and ask members for their support. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, and actually, one more item. Sorry, Chair. I also want to shout out, I see Mr. Rick Switalski in the room today. He has also been just phenomenal with this project, as with so many others. Just really appreciate your work, Rick. And thanks for all you do, and thanks to Director as well. All righty. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Spencer. Just to set the table, we have, I know it's a lot of streets in my ward that I would surely love to reduce down from 35 to 30, just for safety reasons. And you mentioned that you did a study, and most of the drivers in this road was going below the speed limit anyway, correct? But, we have roads where folks are exceeding the speed limits on a regular basis on high-traffic roads. What's the chances we can start to get those streets into the queue to get those reduced? Through the
To the chair. So I think the important thing to acknowledge here is all of those changes that have been implemented on Lake Avenue over the past 10 to 15 years that have likely resulted in drivers now driving at the speeds that they are doing now. So things like the median islands, reducing the number of drive lanes, the width of the drive lanes, those are all things that help contribute to slower speeds and traffic calming. So for other roads where we might be interested in a speed limit reduction, I think a good first step there would be, really looking at the design of the road, whether there's ways for us to do a road diet, implement some type of traffic calming, things that would set it up well for then pursuing that speed limit reduction. Just acknowledging that if the speeds are already very high, if there's a lot of people already driving above what the posted speed limit is, if we were to do a speed zone study at this time, it's very unlikely that the numbers that we get from that study would support the reduction. So if there's ways for us to change the context, change the feel of the roads first, that can go a long way in setting us up for success there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Roberts, how many traffic fatalities have there been on Lake Avenue between 117th and Detroit that you know of?
To the council member through the chair. So for the study, we looked at crash data over the past full 3 years of crash data, which was 2022 to 2024. There were no fatalities during that time, but there were 15 crashes that resulted in injury.
All right, that was my second question. So we've had 15 accidents. And then, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Roberts, what was the average speed on that street?
To the council member through the chair, the average speed was 29.3 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile was 33.1.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Roberts, have you had a conversation with public safety about how to enforce this?
To the council member through the chair, we have not had that conversation yet, but we could certainly do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there any other questions? On resolution number 1097, 2025? Seeing no further questions, resolution number 1097, 2025 is approved. Please sign it. All right, Director, I think you have another piece right here, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Resolution number 1096, 2025. By council members Bishop and Harrison, this is a departmental request. An emergency resolution declaring the intent to vacate a portion of East 81st Street. Okay, Director.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so there's a portion of East 81st Street, which is south of, how do we say that, Preble Avenue, and it is at the request of Cleveland Gears to vacate a portion of the street so that they can do a new building that would be constructed across the current right-of-way onto land that is currently owned by Cleveland Gear Company, Inc. I do, and it kind of abuts against another piece of East 81st Street that had been vacated in the past, back in 1966. I do want to highlight, we're seeking council approval, Councilman Stars in support, but I did a little research on Cleveland Gear because I really didn't know this company, but they have quite the history. They've been at this location since 1928, and they're worldwide leaders at gearing and enclosed gear drives, and they've had some innovations that have been world innovators in gearing. So just wanted to highlight, and on their website, they have a nice little brochure about their company. And again, I don't know them from Adam, but I thought it was a really great Cleveland story that's right there in Ward 5.
All right, thank you, Director. I'm going to go to Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Director DeRosa, as well as the MOCAP team, Rich, for just helping get this project off the ground. So just a little bit about the reason why they're looking to vacate this portion of the street. Also, I should be added to this ordinance when we get a chance to our staff, is the fact that Cleveland Gears is expanding. So the location that they are at on East 81st is where they're having another expansion so they can be able to continue some of the services that they provide. As far as in the manufacturing company, they're expanding because they do a lot of work with the military. So a lot of different tools, a lot of different products. It's something that is very important. And if you're listening at home right now, or you know some folks, they are hiring. One of the things is they try to hire local individuals, starting off a good paid job, roughly around plus $25 to $30 an hour. They do really, really good work. One of the things that we definitely want to make sure is being able to provide an opportunity for them to continue to work at capacity. I've had multiple encounters with their HR. I've actually sent residents from Ward 5 to their business, and they were able to get jobs and get connected. One of the things I would tell you is in the manufacturing and industry right now, we're at a real pivotal point in history where we have to get those jobs and get individuals involved and getting them hired. So I'm also working with them to be able to connect them with different high schools in the neighborhood, such as East Tech, for other young people to look at ways that they can work in manufacturing, whether it's with electric power generations and different manufacturers. I did a tour of Cleveland Gears a couple years ago, as well as earlier this year, to talk about this project. So they're actually building another location to make it more feasible for them to be able to continue to do the work. So I do support this ordinance and look forward to the ribbon cutting of this new facility that's going to create more jobs in Ward 5.
All right, thank you, Councilman Stars. Any other questions on ordinance number 1096, 2025? Resolution number 1096, 2025. Seeing no further questions, resolution number 1096, 2025 is approved. Please sign it.
Thank you.
So ordinance number 1068, 2025.
Chairman,
Sure.
I'm supposed to be a co-sponsor of this legislation. I don't know why I'm not on here.
1068?
Yeah.
Okay, duly noted. Ordinance number 1068, 2025, by council members Bishop and Griffin, Department of Request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreations to accept a donation from Changeover or its designee to allow and accept improvements to 2 tennis courts located at Harmony Park as a gift to the city. Okay, Director, are you representing this piece?
Thank you to the chair. The Department of Parks and Recreation, along with MOCAP, will present on this item, and I will turn it over to Suzanne DeGennaro to share some information and background on this item.
Thank you, Director. Changeover is an Ohio nonprofit corporation that works towards community betterment by revitalizing tennis courts in order to foster a sense of community recreation and wellness. In 2024, Changeover renovated the tennis courts at Thurgood Marshall Rec Center in connection with the Tennis and the Land tournament, which was a women's tennis association tournament. And they intend to continue to renovate one new court per year or set of courts throughout the city. So for 2025, Changeover has selected Harmony Park in the heart of Old Brooklyn as its 2025 project. It intends to renovate the 2 tennis courts that are there, and it will place private logos on the sidelines of its project partner, Rocket Mortgage, LLC. The court improvements have a value of approximately $30,000. The improvements will be donated to the city, but we are seeking authority for the Director of Parks and Recreation to accept the donations and also for the placement of the private logos on the sidelines. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Commissioner.
And Chairman, if I could,
Hold on just a minute.
thank you.
I'm going to go to, now, where is Harmony Park located, Commissioner?
To the chairman, it's in Old Brooklyn.
It's in Old Brooklyn? What street? Do you have the street?
Treadway and Mayview.
Treadway and Mayview.
Okay, all right. And so have Changeover did any other tennis courts in the city so far?
They did, Chairman. They renovated 2 tennis courts at Thurgood Marshall Rec Center last year as their 2024 project.
Now, what logo did they put on at Thurgood Marshall?
Unfortunately, I don't know who their project partner was. On their website, they do list Rocket, Meyer, and Sportsmaster Sports Surfaces as their partners. So it may have been Meyer or Sportsmaster Sports Surfaces as the logo for Thurgood Marshall. I'm not sure, though. I can find out.
Well, so my question is that, are they putting different logos on different courts, or is it the same logo across the city?
I don't know the answer to
You don't
that.
know it? Okay.
Like I said, there's 3 project partners that are listed on their website. I know they intend to place Rocket Mortgage LLC's logo at this Harmony Park location, but I'll have to find out for you in terms of which logos are intended to go where. I think it depends on who their project partner is at a specific location.
Okay. All right, Councilwoman Moore.
Thank you. I just want to express my strong support for this legislation. This improvement from Changeover and Rocket was part of a coordinated effort to essentially do a down payment, is what we called it, on a full renovation of Harmony Park. We were able to leverage these dollars to also get investments at the Treadway Creek Trail, and I contributed NEF funds for additional improvements that are also coming to Harmony Park. The tennis courts had significant issues and, sort of were not as usable in their current state for people who are tennis enthusiasts. And these improvements will make a significant difference, and we're really proud to follow the similar renovation at Thurgood Marshall. The other thing I'll note is that the additions of the logo have already passed through city planning, so they've already been discussed from a design perspective, and were presented to the neighborhood as well, who are comfortable with them. So for those reasons, I fully support the legislation.
Okay, to the staff, please make sure that Councilwoman Mars added to ordinance number 1068. All right, is there any other questions to ordinance number 1068, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1068, 2025 is approved. Please sign it.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Until it gets resurfaced again.
So it's like paved.
All right, we got Public Works up next.
It's not like banners hanging, right? It's like actual.
Yes, like on the.
All right, Director.
Good morning, sir.
Any ordinance you want to start with first?
We can, it's, if you're okay, $12.99.
$12.99. All right, ordinance number 1299, 2025 by Council Members Bishop and Griffin. This is the departmental request. This is an emergency ordinance determining the method of making the the public improvement of repairing, constructing, and installing various ADA compliant structures, including but not limited to curb ramps, and authorizing Director of Public Works to enter into one or more public improvement requirements contract for making the improvement. Okay, Director?
Thank you, Chair and committee. This piece is new for Public Works, but not new to the city. Currently, what happens for ADA ramps is we depend on MOCAP's contract to do that. It does put a strain on their resources, and we have to kind of wait in line. So what we proposed this time, working with MOCAP, talking with them over the last couple of months, is we want to put together our own contract to be able to take the load off of MOCAP, but also be able to allow us to move a little bit faster when it comes to our resurfacing projects. With that, I brought Assistant Commissioner Coleman and Commissioner Rob Mavick to talk a little bit more about what our thoughts and plans are for this new contract.
All right, who wants to go first?
Yeah, this is in collaboration with the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects. What it'll allow us to do is become much more efficient as it relates to the resurfacing program, whereas historically, the department was waiting for the 88 ramps to be completed, and it was going, basically because of the process of certifying that contract through two different departments, but allowing the Department of Public Works to bid this contract out, we can reduce the number of line items, hopefully getting a better cost, and also let us manage when and how those get installed. The other component of that, we will have our own contract, whereas we're using MOCAPs, we're in competition with all of their projects. So trying to separate those crews to either be on the resurfacing program or what is MOCAP's priorities was becoming very difficult. So this will help us become much more efficient at the resurfacing program.
To the chair, as Commissioner Mavick stated, it would streamline our processes and our workflow without waiting on the final phase of asphalt resurfacing to be complete by expediting our own contract within the Division of Streets. And it will help us be able to be more efficient as our resurfacing program has a timeline. As we are aimed to try to finish before winter, we want to be able to control that, and it's out of our control when we use outside vendors or contractors through MOCAP, not knowing when they're going to be able to execute their contracts.
Okay, so this is for $2 million each year, Director, is that correct?
Yeah, so currently what we do is from the resurfacing fund money, we start off with about $1.5 million. And as we get further into it, if we have to transfer more over for new projects, that's kind of how it works. So it can go anywhere from, I don't know, 1.5 to, I don't know, maybe $2 or $2.5 million, just depending on how much work we're doing.
Okay, so just, I'm trying to understand that in a typical year, the city allocated, what, $12 million for side street resurfacing? And then they added, then the council lobbied for another $8 million this year, so it was total $20 million for the year. But in a normal, typical year, if it's $12 million, you mean, so I'm trying to understand, we spending $2 million of that $12 million on 88 ramps, or is it $12 million resurfacing plus an additional $2 million for 88 ramps?
To the chair, it's within that allotment. It's all folded in the 12 million. It's no additional.
So typically, how as a percent, how much does the cost of the 88 ramps takes up in a typical resurfacing street? Is it 15%? Is it 20%? Do you have that figure?
Depending on the location, some locations require more than others. So it depends on the locations, because it could be 5%, or it could be all the way up to 20%.
20%. Okay. And now, do we have? Are we moving to a model where we have this done in-house, or we're particularly looking down the road? We're trying to keep basically getting vendors to kind of short this work out.
So the big answer for this is for the residential, our goal, we would like to take it all in-house. But right now, what we realized when the $20 million, when we got the $8 million increase, what we realized is that we've got some equipment and people expansion that we need to have happen. As far as what those streets that MOCAP does, because of the size and because of all the planning that needs to go with it, I can't speak to if we would be able to do their work in-house because of the things that they have to do on the larger streets. For residential, it's always been our plan to try to bring it in-house, but we realize that this is one of the first steps to help us get there. But the ADA ramps, because of the complexity of what they are and all the requirements that you have for it, we prefer to use a contractor to be able to do that so we can focus our energy on doing the things that we can do a lot better and then we can do a lot faster.
Okay, Director. Now, the ADA ramps, the maintenance on these ADA ramps, I noticed that, and I'm not exactly sure where I was. I'm not exactly sure if I was in my ward or if I was on a city street, but the ADA ramp, it's damaged. So who typically takes care of the maintenance of ADA ramps?
To the chair, Councilman, we have what you call truncated dome pads where we can do the maintenance in-house for those repairs. Mm-hmm. And we, as a division of streets, are able to do those repairs in-house.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm gonna go to my colleagues on ordinance numbers. Any questions on ordinance number 1299? Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, this is for the sidewalks, right, on the corners for street resurfacing, right?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Because it doesn't say that in here. It just says ADA compliant structures, right? So the first thing I'm thinking of is the ADA compliant ramp at the first district, right? Mm-hmm. that needs some help. So that doesn't include this, but even though it doesn't specifically say this is for residential street resurfacing, this is for the corners of each residential street,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's correct, through the chair.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, will this speed up the process of redoing residential side streets? Because, at least in my ward this year, they moved like molasses. They came out, they were really quick at the mill part, mm-hmm. but then they just sat and sat and sat for months and months and months waiting on the ADA compliant portion of it. So for going into next season or even finishing, this is going to finish up this year and for, or is this for next year's?
Through the chair to the councilman, it would be for next year, and I'm going to let Assistant Commissioner Coleman speak to the first part of your question.
Through the chair to the council member, yes, this will absolutely speed up the process. Okay. It's definitely something we definitely looking forward to.
All right, so there's a possibility, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that next year, when a street's getting redone, and if the city's redoing the street and not a contractor, that it could just be one crew that's out there that does the resurfacing, another crew comes out there, does the ramps at the same time, and we move on, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the director or whomever, can you just explain why we have to, when we redo a street, make sure that every curb is, or every corner? I know the answer, but I know some people don't know why we have to make those ADA compliant.
Through the chair of the councilman, that is a requirement federally as part of the ADA requirements. A few years back, the city actually was sued over not having compliant ramps, and so in order to catch the city up with the compliance, all the resurfacing program then were mandated to have the ADA ramps in compliance, and so that's kind of where that lies, or why it lies within the local resurfacing program, but it is a requirement of the ADA Act.
All right, and then my last question, Mr. Chairman, to the director is, we have streets that are concrete that we know we're never going to be able to resurface through the asphalt program, right? But yet, the corners and the curbs of those streets are not ADA compliant, right? We still have the curb going around the corner. How can we, or is there a plan to address being non-ADA compliant on streets that are concrete that we're not going to asphalt over?
Through the chair, the councilperson, I think we would like to have a list of where those concerns are so we can look at them and see if it's something that we can be inclusive as part of this program. I'm not aware of funding set aside specifically for that particular request, but it's certainly something we can look at.
Right, but we do know, Mr. Chairman, to the director, that we are, according to the feds and the ADA, we are supposed to be ADA compliant with all of our corners, even though there may be portions of the city that are not because of the structures of the streets, correct?
The chair, to the councilman, yes, that is correct. And to the commissioner's point, we work with MOCAP as well.
Okay.
Because there are some areas where they take and there are areas that we take. But if we have a list or if you have something you know of, you can pass it on to us and we can make sure we talk about it in our pavement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Director.
All right, thank you, Councilman Casey. Is there any other questions on ordinance? Councilman Kelly, you got a question? No. All right, is there any other questions on ordinance number 1299, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1299, 2025 is approved. Please sign it. All right, ordinance number 1222, 2025 by council members Bishop and Griffin. This is the departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to contract with one or more consultants or firms for consultants to provide professional services necessary to manage the nuisance abatement process that oversees the cutting and cleaning of vacant and occupied structures that are in violation of building and housing and/or health code ordinances for a period up to 2 years. All right, Director.
Thank you, Chair. This piece is, last year was our first year of doing something like this with an external contractor, where we have one external contractor pretty much manage all the other contractors that we use for our vacant property grass cutting program. So we're asking, I believe we had some success with this. So we're asking to be able to do this again as we tweak it before a 2-year period. I found that we got started a little late. And once we got into it, we were able to see that the contractor was able to do some things, help us move a lot faster. So we're asking to be able to do this again with this piece.
Okay. So, Director, so how did it go last year with the one contractor? Was there any improvements to the delivery of our service?
I believe so. This contractor did about 14,000 work orders.
Okay.
Which really did help us concentrate more on things like vacant lots. One of the areas though that we did find is that we were able to get through the vacant lots a lot faster, but it was the trim work, and that was the area that we, once we kind of got your finger out on one hole in the dike, you found another. But I think being able to have this contractor gave us a lot more flexibility to pivot more than what we were able to do in the past.
Okay. And Director, the money where this coming is, these dollars are coming from. Can you talk a little bit about the money where the funds or the sub funds where these dollars are coming from?
Yes, Chair. This comes from the general fund. So this is all funded through the general fund. What we did was the Snyder Blade contract that we typically use, we took some of that funding away and we use it for this contractor. So this year coming up, we want to take a little bit more, just kind of slowly moving some of this money over to this contractor, using less, because using our contractor, we don't have to rent trucks. We don't use as much gas. We don't have to worry about the people issues when we have a contractor. So just methodically trying to move a little bit more over to this contract, just testing out, seeing how it works. So that's where this is coming from.
Okay, so there's no CDBG dollars used in this contract?
Through the chair, no.
Okay, all right. All right, is there any questions on ordinance number 1222? Councilman Brian Case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have one question. Is this citywide?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, it is.
And this is not Project Clean, correct?
No, through the chair to the councilman, this is not Project Clean.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Chair, I have a question.
Councilwoman Deborah Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Director, pertaining to, in this ordinance, it says, professional services necessary to manage the nuisance abatement process that oversees the cutting and cleaning of vacant and occupied structures. Could you explain that to the audience for them to have an understanding oversees the cleaning, the cutting and the cleaning? of
Councilwoman, can you
vacant-
talk into the mic?
Yes, I am talking to the mic. Thank you. Do I need to repeat myself? All right. Could you explain the specific part of the nuisance abatement process that oversees the cutting and cleaning of the vacant and occupied structures that are in the violation of building housing? That particular part, could you explain that to the residents who's watching pertaining to the vacant properties that, lots that we constantly get calls on because they're not clean enough for them, and they have to be, and sometimes the tractors have to be called back to recut, and then after the fact, they still full of debris and trash. So could you explain that particular part of this process in this ordinance?
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
To the best of my ability, through the chair, to the councilwoman. So the ordinance 209 gives the city of Cleveland the ability to abate nuisances, which I like to try to make sure that folks understand that we're not necessarily doing the work of a landscaper. What we're doing is abating a nuisance, whether it be trash or grass that's too high. That is ultimately the goal of this program. With that being said, we try our best to do a quality job. In the past, we have not been able to because of the lack of resources. Adding this contractor will allow us to get a little bit better on quality. If we can focus more on one area, our contractor can do some other things for us, and we want to try to use them more to do more of the quality work that we have here. Now, as far as occupied structures, which is part of the Residents First program, we use these contractors as well to help us when there is an occupied structure that has been cited by the Building and Housing. We actually use these crews to go out with the help of public safety to go out to maintain these areas. But when there is, when you have situations where we've gone out and we need to do better, please make sure that your residents let us know. They can call us directly so we can get, if we haven't done it the way we need to do, we can get back out there and get it better.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Second part of this question that we constantly get calls from is that when the tractor comes out to cut the partial, they come out only to cut. Now, after they cut, we know they don't tidy up the debris and the trash, and also cut the bushes and the hedges around the perimeter of the partial. Now, who does that after they cut the partial?
So
Chair to
Yes, sir.
Director.
Absolutely, through the chair to the councilwoman. That was, when I mentioned trimming, that is what I mean. So our there's about 3 phases to what we do here. The first would be the rough cut, when you see the tractors go out and they're able to they can move quickly and do the very, the larger areas quickly, but they can't get to the trimming or those kind of things. So after that, what we call the trim crew, that would be the crew that goes out and they would clean up and they would do the detailed work around fence lines and things like that. This is where I want to use this contractor more, because that is the area where we still have a pain point, that we weren't as effective as we needed to be. So we want to try to use this contractor to help us get better at that. The third part would be we have the next group of folks will come and they actually pick up the trash once those folks are done, just depending on how much trash it is. We break it up in those pieces because it helps us just move faster, to be able to have a person, if the person goes out there into the tractor cut and they have to get up and they have to do trimming, it just would take too long.
Right.
So we want to try to specialize to see our folks go faster. But again, that's that area of what we call trimming, what you mentioned about detail work and cleaning up. That's the area where we need to get better, and why I want to use this contractor to help us.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have a couple more questions, Chair, to the Director, because we constantly get questions on this all the time. So what is the process? What is the timeline, or what will be the timeline of this process once the detail of the partial is cut, and then your trimming crew comes out to trim, and then the last phase of the next group to come out to pick up the debris? What is what's your timeline? And or are you still trying to set up that timeline? Because this is a detrimental question. We get calls on all the time. I know I do, and I specifically have to come out to that area to try to explain to the residents who are dealing with a bad cut partial at that time, and they want everything trimmed. Also, Chair to the Director, I apologize. They also want the trimming done off their fence. We have a lot of weeds and bushes that grow against homeowners' fence on the outer side of their fence on their property. They feel that they shouldn't cut that, the weeds and the bushes off their private fence. They feel that your department should come out and cut that off their fence. So is there a process for that too, along with these 3 steps, Chair to the Director?
So through the chair to the councilwoman, I will say that in the past, because of resources, because it was nuisance abatement driven, we really did, we were doing our best just to cut the vacant lots. So we weren't able to get to the finer detail of things like what you're asking for, things like bushes and those kind of things, which, again, in the past, it was just something that we just couldn't do because of the capacity. We want to try to use this contractor to help us get better at that. I will say that the timeline between when we actually have a tractor cut and by the time we got to go out there and trim, the average is about 2 weeks.
Yes.
We're trying to close that down, but again, it really does boil down to our resources.
Yes.
Being able to have enough resources to be able to attack it quickly is the issue. Some wards are a little bit easier to do. Some are more difficult. And Ward 4 traditionally has been a difficult area for us to do. But again, with this contractor, our goal is to try to get better at that, try to close that gap. But right now, it's average about 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. And then thank you for that. I hope the audience is listening. So, but that final last part of my question, when the weeds and bushes grow onto a private property of an owner from the city lot, they want those bushes and weeds cut off their private fence, whether it's wood or wire. Who does that from your department?
So through the chair to the council.
Chair to the director.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, just depending on what kind of weed it is. If it's larger, we may have to get some help from urban forestry. If it is not as large, we may be able to do it in-house, but again, it would have to be something that would, it had to be something special. Because again, our folks are going in, grass cut, trim what they can, clean up, pull the trash out. And so things like that may not be a part of what we do. So if that's something that the homeowner says, well, hey, you can put that in through the 311, and you've done that. We've talked about a couple of those instances. So we may have to do that now until we can actually get a better system where we are able to, because right now our resources just won't allow us to be able to do that in every instance.
Yes, and that's true, Chair. One more question to the director, and that's true because I've had these conversations over and over with some of the homeowners. The fence, wooden fence, have actually been damaged from so much weeds and bushes growing onto their fence. And their fence are now like damaged or broken apart from overgrown bushes and trees that have grown on from so many empty parcels around the property now per se. So I'm just asking these questions because I got flooded the last week with a lot of this from the homeowners that was told that there's nothing much more that Public Works can come out and cut these weeds and bushes off their private fence that is now damaged, and they are extremely upset about that, which they believe the council should have more power to push to have Public Works to have that done. And I know a lot of them have submitted more claims because their fence have been badly damaged. So due to them taking another step, they are more extremely upset about all the process of the steps that they have to take, and the process is extremely slow, and they feel violated because the city has not done a great job of trimming of the second part of trimming, because we know at one point you had a crew come out that did the trimming 3 days after the cutting, but they have not seen that in a while due to the city being understaffed. So I'm just making a point of this because today I have to go out. A resident requested me to come out to look at the bushes that have overgrown over on her fence from a partial on the next street, that she feel unsafe in her house because she's an elder and she don't know who might jump over that fence into her property. And she requested me, she called me twice this weekend. So that's nothing much I can do per se in my position. But however, I'm going over there to take pictures of all the weeds that's on the back of her fence because she feels unsafe. But I'm going to take those pictures, I'm going to put them in 311, and I'm going to email those pictures and that reference number to you so you can see her concern of her feeling unsafe in her own house because of the partials that's behind her house, and the weeds and the trees have grown so high she can't see anything otherwise. And there's another homeowner that literally was told that there was nothing that Public Works can do, and she called me several times, but I will take pictures of her fence and get that reference number she already gave to me this weekend, and I'll send you that information. So that's why I'm asking these questions, because I have only so many, I only can answer the questions, thus far. So this is this is a huge concern that needs to be looked at during this new process, and the company that you're going to bring on. That's something that needs to be looked at too, because residents' private property is being damaged by so much of the bushes and the weeds growing in these partials. They feel violated, and they don't want to take the time to cut cut the bushes and weeds off because they feel that they're not responsible. Because these are elders that need this assistance, and they're on a fixed income, and they can't hire someone to cut these bushes and weeds off their fence. So these things need to be looked at and taken consideration of homeowners that's on fixed income, that property is now being damaged about the excess of the weeds and the bushes being growing onto their property. Thank you, Chair.
Councilwoman, I will, through the chair, I will look for your emails and anything we could do that we can do to help with this. We'll make sure we do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Councilman Richard Starr.
Just brief, through the chair to my colleague, Councilwoman Gray. I know you may have, do you have a grass cutting crew in your neighborhood? They do different vacant lots for you?
I don't need to have that.
No, I was saying.
I'm fine, thank you. I don't have a grass cutting crew for that.
So, but over in your neighborhood, there also is like a unit leader over there. I was going to ask through the chair to the director, do she have a unit leader over there that helps with the different vacant lots over there?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, that would probably be, I think, Earl Jules in that area.
Yep. Is it possible, through the chair to the director, could you get that individual over to Councilwoman Gray so she can have that contact with the person? And the reason I bring that up to Councilwoman is I have a unit leader in Ward 5. So when I get a call about something from a vacant lot growing into somebody else's property, they usually come over and help me get some extra stuff up, so it can be easier for me to get it to the director. Not the director, to the unit leader, and then they make it more easier for me. So with that relationship I have with Brandon Roscoe, I'm able to send him some stuff, and he'd be able to pull up to like the resident house you're going to go see. He'll pull up with me and see some things that he can do, and then he can expedite it to if you need another department to help, so it can be easier for you. So I would just want to make sure you know if they got a unit leader over there that can help you out, so you can get some of this taken care of too.
So through the chair to the councilman, both council people, yes. And I do want to make sure that in some cases, sometimes these are trees that we're dealing with, and if we're dealing with trees, the vacant property folks don't have the capacity to deal with trees. And this is where we have a contract that we use, but again, that list we've got some major issues, so we have a kind of priority. Trees that are on people's houses, trees that are, those kind of things. And so it may take a little bit of time before we get to those, but again, absolutely whatever we can do to help, we will.
Okay, I appreciate that. I had no idea that that can happen, but I know some of the residents that have called me talking about a unit leader, that unit leader tells them that they still have to call in chair to the director. They still have to call in to get permission to do that in those, in those parcels around the property, because they just can't up and just do it without it being called in and submitted in the system to the city. So some of the residents have called on that, and they just said they just can't get off one job to do another job.
Sure.
Because it's not on their list to do.
Well, you
Chair to the director.
through the chair to the council, you keep me in your loop. So if you got something, I think most council members, they email me directly, and if it's, you can't get it through, just let me know.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions on ordinance number 1222, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1222, 25 is approved. Please sign it. And last but not least, ordinance number 1221, 2025 by council members Bishop and Griffin is the departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreations and/or Director of Public Works and/or Director of Finance to contract with one or more temporary employment agencies to provide professional services to supply temporary and seasonal personnel for the Departments of Parks and Recreations and/or Department of Public Works and the Project Clean program, and for various other departments of the city for a period of 1 year. Okay, Director?
Thank you. This is the annual piece of legislation that we request to be able to solicit a contractor to be able to provide labor to the city. So again, this is not to select any specific vendor. This is just for us to be able to go out and solicit a vendor to be able to provide temporary labor for what we use for grass cutting. Parks uses it as well. Different agencies throughout the city use this contract as well. But this legislation just allows us to be able to go out and to request.
Okay. Okay, Director, so now we have three different directors here on this piece, Parks and Recs, Public Works, and Finance. So this is a piece, so if we pass this piece, any one of these directors can get folks from this, your temporary service, right? Correct?
Yes, that is correct, Chair.
Okay, now where does the money come from, Director?
So to the chair, there are multiple sources. There is general fund, there is community development block grant money. The wards, actually each council person puts up funds for this as well. So there are multiple areas where these fundings can come from because of the way this contract's used. But as far as public works, we use general fund, community development block grant funds.
Okay, so Director, it's been a great debate about council people putting in their councilmatic dollars for services that comes out of the general fund budget in other parts of the city, and in some parts of the city, the department is looking for council members to put up their funds. You want to talk a little bit about that, Director?
Yeah, Chair, what I think was a great partnership were the council folks that donated or put money into it for crews. They were able to do more in their areas. For instance, Ward 7, litter was a big deal. And so we were able to have a crew that addressed just litter. Ward 5, they actually used a crew to be able to do extra things. Well, so when, again, as this project or this program allows us to do roughly about 4 times throughout the city, if we use our funds right, and if we are able to get everybody and every piece of equipment is running, we can get through the city about 4 times. But in some places and sometimes that's just not enough. So the ward crews really do fill in the gaps. When there is a need in your area, we are able to quickly dispatch that ward crew to be able to take care of things that are needed in that area. So that's really that you don't have to, ward members you don't have to. But I think a lot of those who use it find that it's very helpful to be able to dispatch those crews when we're not in that part of the cycle in your ward.
Okay, also, Director, in Section 2 of the ordinance, it says the cost of the contract or contract shall authorized shall be paid for fund number, and it lists the fund number and any other funds approved by the director. Can you comment about any other funds used by the director? Why is that piece in this legislation?
So again, if a council person wants to use casino funds, or if they want to use some different type of funding, it allows you to be able to do that.
Okay.
Without that, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to Councilman Starr, and I'm going to come back to Brian Casey.
Thank you, Director. I know you served in the pleasure of being Assistant Director for Public Works for a number of years, and I know you're now running as a director. Thank you for that support that you do. One of the things I definitely would like to ask regarding our vacant lots. Vacant lots is a major issue in the city of Cleveland for various different reasons. Some ways we are moving the needle to be able to do different things. One, I would definitely like to ask, within the Snyder and Blake Business Service contract, is that a contract, or that's the entity that the city has contracted out for 1 year professional contract services? How does that actually come about for Snyder and Blake to be the ones who always get the contract?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councilman, that is, we send this RFP out to probably about 20 or so groups, and I typically get about 2 or 3 that respond. And when we go by the lowest price, typically this organization comes back with the lowest price.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it boils down to. No preference or anything. It's just they come up with the lowest price. And again, you have to stretch these dollars for a long time. So.
And then through those dollars and through that RFP process, if I can ask to our staff, can they reach out to your office to see the last 3 years, how the contract or the RFP went out and what was the actual response?
Absolutely.
That would be something that is great.
Last 3 years?
Yep, the last 3 years. That'd be perfect. And then also within this process that we have, when it comes to dealing with the actual vacant lots, do we have any weed killers that we use? The grow weed killers, do we use that in these vacant lots?
So through the chair to the councilman, years ago, we used to use that, but now EPA restrictions, stormwater, things like that, it does limit. So I actually have on Rental Brumfield helping me try to find something that we could use that is safe to the environment. So right now, all the things that are out there are not as safe what we've used in the past.
Okay, so therefore you're going to this off season, rather, I believe.
Yep.
You're looking to different ways to be able to say, hey, this is a device or this is some different usage that people are using that is not going to damage or environmental approval, to be able to help mitigate some of the actual weeds. Because what you say, when 3 or 4 cuts, you get a good cut, and then 2.5 weeks later,
yep,
the weeds they grow they go further. It's like you cut your beard, and then your beard come back, it's full even more because you cut it. So within that terminology, being able to get something in place to make sure we kill some of these weeds that we know that it's just a vacant lot that's just overly growing, I think that can definitely help. So I definitely look forward to being able to work with you on this. And I understand through this legislation process, we are now be able to use CDBG funds, that can be very helpful in certain neighborhoods to be able to utilize these funds. So thank you so much, and I appreciate the work that you're doing and your transparency and open line of communication that you always have through the chair, Director.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, when it comes to Snyder Blake, sometimes the least isn't the best, right? The cheapest isn't the best because you pay for what you get, or you get what you pay for. This is a citywide project, Mr. Chairman, to the director.
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, that is correct.
And then any council member who puts in additional dollars gets additional crews to stay in their ward, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
Is this the first year that we're adding parks and recreation to this?
Through the chair to the councilman, no, they've been doing this as long as we've had this contract. Parks and Recs has also use laborers as well.
So that we've used this for parks and cemeteries
Through the chair, that's correct.
and stuff. All right, and then so the 900,000 that's coming from the general fund, that's what's used throughout the city, correct? Citywide?
Through the chair to the councilman, that 900,000 is specifically for public works, what we use just to do vacant properties in public works.
Okay.
Now, there are other departments that'll have their funding as well. For
And
other
it's
things.
citywide, though?
Yes, through the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
So what's the difference between this piece of legislation, 1221, and 1222 that we just passed?
So 1222, through the chair to the councilman, 1222 gives me the ability, I really want to try to, my big picture, right, is to be able to, at some point, use as little amount of Snyder Blake as possible and as much as an outside contractor as possible. So this 22 is an outside contractor where I don't have to, I'm not responsible for the people. I'm not responsible.
22 is not the outside.
I'm sorry, 20.
21's the outside contractor, right?
No, I think 22 is. Yeah, I think 22 is the outside contractor.
But we're both using outside contractors here.
So the 22 outside contractor is they supply trucks. They supply, I don't have to hire the people. I don't have to worry about the gas.
Landscaping
Absolutely.
companies,
Absolutely.
okay. And then 21 is Snyder Blake.
Snyder Blake, through the chair, that's, I hire those people, I supply the trucks, I supply the gas.
All right, so between 22 and 21, both outside contractors, what are our own employees going to be doing?
So that's a great question through the chair to the councilperson. Our folks are actually focused on the actual, so the way we kind of separate the labor is our folks are doing more of the, if you see the folks on the tractors, those are city people. Those are not outside contractors. There are also people that we are using now in alleys. Those are going to be city people. Those are not contractors. Because we don't have, I mean, if I had my druthers and had all the people I need to do to be able to do this, I'd probably have about 500 people. But I don't have that kind of funding. So to be able to do what I can, I'm trying to move more of our funding into pots where I can get the best bang for my buck. And right now it's experimentation. This contractor did well this year, but you know, sometimes over time people kind of slack off. So I want to be able to have the Snyder Blake piece as well as the outside contractor. And if I feel like this is getting better, I move more of that money over to the outside contractor.
All right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the director, for those council members who put their allocated dollars in there, do those crews remain in that ward?
Through the chair to the councilman, they do.
Okay, throughout the whole year?
Through the whole year.
Which frees up the general fund dollars, correct? So if somebody, and I'm just going to take somebody who's not at the table, Ward 1, Ward 1 is I'll take Ward 2 as an example, all right? So Ward 2 has their own crew through this piece of legislation who never leaves Ward 2. So we should really never have a complaint about a vacant lot in Ward 2 because he's got a crew there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
What?
Could be, right? I'm just,
yeah, sure.
Bear with me.
Sure.
But then Ward 16 doesn't give you dollars, correct?
Correct.
Because we've been through that path.
Sure.
Right?
In the past you did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In the past we have, right. But Ward 16 is not giving dollars now. But because we're not utilizing the general fund dollars in Ward 2, because he's got a constant crew there 5 days a week, it shouldn't take 6 to 8 weeks in between passes in Ward 16.
So through the chair to the councilman, I wish that were the case. But again, because we're going citywide, and because we need to be able to move throughout the entire city, there are times when we take the west side folks and we bring them east.
We know.
So because there's a lot to do.
I'm not saying there's not a lot to do, but that doesn't mean you neglect the little bit to do either.
Absolutely.
Right?
So through the chair, we would not neglect.
And then let me ask you one other question, Mr. Chairman, to the director. Are CDCs allowed to cut vacant lots and properties?
So through the chair to the councilman, that did happen in the past. Didn't work out well. So I don't promote it. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It's just because of what I've seen in the past, we try to keep everything under our hands, so we were able to control it.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Councilman Casey. I'm going to go to Councilman Harrison.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the director, thank you for your hard work and the commitment that you showed to the residents of Cleveland every single day. Appreciate you. You and your team have been excellent for Ward 10. Whenever we've reached out, you've responded immediately. You've addressed the situations, and the residents and myself, thank you for your swift response every single time. You have a great team. You know, the crew that you've had for a while, Tamisha, Mike, Ingram, who you took from Ward 10. That's okay.
You still have me.
I'm still mad. That's okay. Yes, I am. To the chair, to the director, absolutely, I still am. But he is still working on our behalf as he is working for the entire city. You know, he's from the neighborhood, and so he's there. He still sees a lot, and thank him. He helped us out recently over on Belvoir. We've been having issues for years, and just have, since he's been gone, to try to get that done correctly. But he came through and he made sure that it got taken care of, like he's done in so many other wards across the city, east and west. So thank you for you and your team. I will say to the chair that the ward crew that I have provided additional dollars to support and supplement the citywide normal crews have been excellent for us as well. When we've had issues, we've been able to quickly reach out to your team. They've been able to quickly dispatch the supplemental grass crew, and the key word supplemental, right? That we all 17 wards, the systematic crews flows through the neighborhoods, and each council member who chooses to, and those who do not choose to provide additional grass cutting crews to have really worked well. And I can say for Ward 10, they've been excellent. We've had a 2-person crew, we've had a 3-person crew through the chair to the director in the past, and I was concerned that the 2-person crew would not be able to achieve much, but through the chair to the director, they knocked out the park this summer. Whether you have abandoned building where the additional manicuring needs to happen, where the weeds are growing up through the sidewalk and the curbs, right? They've been able to clear places like that. When we've had these small connectors, like along Rayburn between Hillsborough and Durrell, they've been able to go through and weed whack and like really clean it up better than just the normal crews, because it's a timing thing. They need to hit and keep moving, right? So through the chair to director, I appreciate you, I appreciate your team, appreciate that ward crew that I've been able to supplement every year that I've been in office to support the residents of Ward 10. It has been very great. It's been a great process. It's been great for us. The process has been great, and I look forward to funding that crew again in 2026 as we roll back into the grass cutting process. But I will say, Mr. Chair, to the director, through the chair, we got to figure out a solution for these noxious weeds. Like, they come, they do the work, and they're back in a week. Growing through the sidewalk, going through the curves, right? You can ride down Nottingham, and it's a beautiful street. Cavadas is there. Tim Max redid his building. A piece of Cleveland is a brand new showroom on Nottingham that we helped bring there, right? And you ride down, all you see is these high weeds that are 2 feet tall growing through the sidewalk. It just makes the road look horrible, right?
Yes.
And I know there's some home-based solutions that we've been discussing, but really, if you all can really do take a deep dive and really do some homework on what we can do. I know the Roundup and the ortho and all those things have been, subject to a lot of, controversy, over the years. But maybe if it's applied right and, in the right manner, maybe we can consider using that. I mean, we got to get a solution, because we spend a lot of time just trying to trim weeds and cut down the stuff that's growing through the sidewalks and the curves, and we spend a lot of time on it.
Absolutely.
And so a better way would be appreciated. So just my comments to the chair, to the director. Again, thank you for your hard work and your team. And the ward crew has been fantastic every single year that we've had them in Ward 10. In fact, we've had them every year that we've been in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Harrison. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Gray.
Yeah, I don't have a question now, Chair, to the Director. Councilman Harris has summed it up. He clarified on one of the questions that I wanted to ask pertaining to the city crew and then the extra crew that is hired into some of the awards. How often do you collaborate with the rotation of cutting the partials? So he kind of summed that up for me. All right, otherwise, I just want to say that you do an excellent job. Your crew is tremendous, but, you just have some areas that the elders have the unsafe problems when they dealing with the tall weeds and bushes that's around their house when they have partials next to their home that's empty. But otherwise, I do appreciate what you and your department
Thank
do
you.
in the war.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Are there any other questions on ordinance number 221, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 221, 2025 is approved.
Thank you.
Is there any miscellaneous for the director before we adjourn? All right. Seeing no further, I hereby adjourn the municipal service and property to the next call of the chair.